Hello, 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 family. It has been a minute since I have been on YouTube, but here I am. I'm happy to be back directly on YouTube because I've been sharing some things from Substack over to YouTube, and that's been great. I hope that you've been catching all of the things on Substack. And before I get into talking to that, we have to do these intros. So I'm Kayla. If you are very brand spanking new to my channel, welcome. Hey, how you doing? I am a lot of things. I was just thinking about this before I came on because I am a pre-game thinker, right? And one thing that I've been getting away from is these titles. I don't like the boxing in that these titles that we give ourselves seem to place on us. Time you put a title on, it's like you're in that box and people expect you to be in that box alone, or you may even expect yourself to just be in that box because this is what you've labeled yourself as. So what I will say is, something that I love to do is to learn, teach, share metaphysical philosophies, esoteric themes. I love a good rabbit hole. I'm that girl. I also practice in various arts of divination and spiritual technologies. And yeah, this is my YouTube. I do a lot of things on Substack as well, as far as essays, writings. I have a whole Substack community that you can subscribe to. You can do free or paid subscriptions. Yeah, we do them both. We're doing a lot on Substack. That is a learner's platform. So many great things already on there. Probably right now more than over 200 article essays, challenges, word form, class lessons, and all of those things. Yeah. So Substack is great. I love my Substack. Subscribe today. I would say definitely subscribe if you're like a reader. You like to read and you like to do deep dives. Substack is that. My website also is live. I think we went live sometime last month, but KaylaMcBride.com is up and it's running. And this is where I'm going to be hosting, this is where I'm going to be hosting courses, more private courses, more of my blogs. It is the central hub for everything that I'm doing. So if you want a one-stop shop to check out all of my offerings, what I'm sharing, what I'm teaching, what I'm exploring, definitely check out the website. I'm going to put the website in the description of this video. So I wanted to, let me drink some water. Today I wanted to talk about perspectives. And I have this idea of doing like a perspective shift of the week. And we're going to do some of that work today. We're going to explore some of that today. As I was thinking about it, I feel like we are in the eclipse season. We are like right in the middle of two eclipses. We just had the solar eclipse in Leo. So we're in between eclipse seasons. I don't know where the other eclipse is landing, but I know it's coming. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know it's coming. So we're in this middle spot, right? And I feel like it's interesting. And often when I say interesting, I often mean like, oh, it's divinely timed, right? That's interesting. That's on point. So it's interesting that we can do this sort of perspective shifting work in the in-between of the void of eclipse season. Because in this time, things are not necessarily settled, not necessarily grounded. They are figuring each other. They are figuring, the earth, the moon, the world, the universe, everything. I'm a rapper. Everything is figuring itself out. So everything is figuring itself out. A lot of things are in a middle ground of where they are supposed to be and where they're going. I'm just looking for something. So that's where we are. I'm looking for a headband. So that's where we are. We are in that season. We are in the season of like limbo. And when what you see, it's like it being in the season of just not knowing if what you see is what you see, and also being able to like have space to redetermine what that sight is, to reaffirm what the hell you're looking at, what you want to look at, what you want to see, what you want to happen, and what you want to transpire. And it's the time of messages. So during eclipse season, we are, told to sit back and do nothing. We often don't listen, but we're told to just sit back and kind of, let the energy do what it's going to do. And from observing what that energy does and what it chooses to do and who the hell it chooses to drop off, who does it choose to remove, what does it choose to remove, what does it choose to drop off, we are, supposed to be observing those things during eclipse season. So I say all that to say, I think eclipse season is a perfect time for any type of subconscious reprogramming work, which self-perspective shifting is at its core, because you got to get to that subconscious, y'all. You got to. So I think it's a great time to do any type of work when it comes to shifting the mind, which shifts the reality, baby, and which shifts the experience that we are all having. So, when it comes to perspectives, many of us grow up, like we aren't born with a human perspective, right? We're not born with a human perspective. Everything that we perceive, we learn from the moment of birth, right? So from the moment that you open your eyes, things that you're perceiving, people and the environment that you're interacting with, the food that you're eating, all of these things start to evolve and change what their perspective is. And over time, the perspective develops. Over time, it initiates its own kind of instructions to the reality building process that it's a part of. And if you want to know more about self-perspectives, I just released a course on shifting self-perspectives that is on my website. Okay, so there are these learned things, right? We are taught our perspective. Some ways we're taught it directly, some ways we're taught indirectly. And that's why, have you ever heard anybody say, everybody has a different perspective. Opinions are like, because everybody has them. I don't know if I can curse on this app, but that saying about opinions. Everybody has one. Perspectives are the same, right? And the perspective and the opinion is also like closely related and compared. So I think that's a good analogy to use. So what happens, because we all grew up in these different environments. You grew up with a mama and a daddy, or whoever raised you that was different than me, right? They came from different places. So they're bringing in their perspective as parents, and they're giving it to me as a child. So I'm going to have a specific ideology, output, because of my parents. And that is going to lay the foundation of everything else that stacks up. And that's how it happens in childhood. You know, those people that are a part of our intimate environment when we're growing up, they really are part of laying the foundation of what our perspective is. But it gets deeper. Because when I think about perspective in this world, right, in this plane, in this realm, however you describe this space, okay, in this earth, on this dimension, that the actuality of the space that we're at is a perspective. That is a learned perspective. What do I mean? So let's just say your parents believe that the earth is flat. You will then grow up with that perspective. And this is about because perspective is really, really based in belief, right? Belief drives a perspective. So if you can manipulate the belief of a person, you are directly manipulating. Oh, be all right. You are directly manipulating the perspective. Okay, so change the belief, change the perspective. So I have parents, right, that are headstrong. The earth is flat. The earth is flat. I grew up on this. From I came out the womb. This is my belief. It is also my perspective, but the foundation of it is it's something that I really believe in. And so that belief is driving that perspective. Not only is it driving that perspective, but it's driving everything that's going to be connected to that perspective as well, right? So I have this belief that the earth is flat. Now, the things that may be connected to that perspective is, you know, how do I live personally? Do I live in the city? Am I somebody who's, you know, disconnected in their, not disconnected, like, am I somebody who prefers to live in a certain space because I don't want to live around all these people who are out of their mind thinking that the world is round when I know it's flat, okay? Because that's what I was brought up on. You get it? How do I choose to teach my children? What avenues do I choose to let my children experience? Because I have this belief and I don't want their belief to be shifted by being in an environment with somebody who doesn't have a belief. So now I live here and I teach my children like this and I place my family in this type of environment. Do you understand? Because our beliefs are going to be the foundations on which our perspectives are built upon. And so that person who is raised on that flat earth belief has a very unique, and all perspectives are unique, but they have a very, what may seem like, because this is my perspective talking, right? So they have what may seem like a very polarizing perspective. And that perspective may cause them to live their life in a very different way from somebody else's. That perspective also causes them to see the world in a completely different way than me. So, and really, I want to drive the fact that we're talking about belief. And what you believe, you see. So let's just say people who really believe that the earth is flat, right? I'll go to something else. People who really believe that we are living in a matrix, which I believe everything. Just so you know, I believe it all. So let's just take someone who really believes that we're living in a matrix, and let's just say that they were taught this from birth. Because for a lot of us, I'm 38 years old, whatever generation it is, you know, a lot of us are having to flip our perspectives because we are relearning things, or we're learning things for the first time, or we're, you know, unveiling things. But let's think about somebody who is born under, you know, these perspectives. And instead of having it shifted, it's something that they were inbred with, interacted with from a very, 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 very early place in their childhood. So this is all they believe. So from the womb, they learned this is the matrix. That person is then going to produce a reality that reflects that belief. They may see things, and I'm pretty sure they're going to see things that I'm not going to see. Because my baseline perspective is maybe still fighting with that. Even if I studied this thing and had this new belief, and I'm like, I'm starting to believe that, I really believe, I believe we're in a matrix, we're in some type of simulation, but I still have this core belief from my childhood that I have to work on shifting, continuous work of shifting, because it's a core belief that's been inbred in me for 38 years, But think about, so it's going to, affect what I can see, what I believe that I can see, right? So thinking about the person who was born believing in the matrix, believing that the world was, is the matrix. Because of that belief, their perspective, when they are in the alchemy process of creating the projection that is the picture that is the reality, right? The projection that is the picture that is reality. When they are producing that from their belief, because of that perspective, it's no telling what they see. I can't even tell what they see because I don't operate under the same core perspective. But could you imagine what a person who operated under that core perspective would see, could see? Because unlike us, they aren't tainted with the core perspective of living on a ball, floating in space. That's not their core belief. Right. So then the perspective that they would see, because, the perspective is the shape. And I do talk about this in the course, Shifting Self Perspectives. I am going to tap that into the description box. Right. Oh, I lost my thought. So I do talk about that, based on what you see. So what you're seeing, oh goodness, what was I going to say? What you're seeing is the projection. Let's get back to the projection. Wow, that thought, maybe this was the thought. I don't know. But the projection is, you have the belief in the divine engine, the stir up the pot that comes to reality, because we have all these steps before we actually get to seeing what the fuck is outside. Okay, we have all these steps before we see what's outside. We have the thoughts. The thought comes in, and the thoughts say and then the thoughts mix with the beliefs, which is so important. That's why belief is a targeted thing within our society, baby. Because if you target the belief, you change the way that somebody is living their life. Okay? So you have the thoughts that churn with the beliefs, and within their beliefs, that's where the perspectives is a part of that, part of the mixing pot, right? So the perspective is a part of that. And then what comes out is reality, is what we're living. Right? So there is and when you begin to change your core beliefs, which is a continuous thing, and because we have to know that a lot of the core beliefs that we have are generational core beliefs. So these things are not just surface level beliefs. They are embedded into the DNA. They're in your blood. So it's not easy to it's not easy to reframe a generational core belief. But when we are aware that this is a core belief, a core human belief, meaning that my soul didn't come in here thinking like this. This is the belief that I learned, that was acquired from my human experience. Acknowledging things like that help us to start to shift it. Reality in this world is just what the person says that reality is, but that's not necessarily the actuality of reality. Who knows what the actuality of reality is? As a matter of fact, I don't know. I just know that we all are having our own specific individual living experience. I can look at an apple. You can look at an apple, but we have two different experiences with that apple. We have two different perspectives and understanding of that apple because we've lived two different lives. And one person may have had a horrible experience with apples. I don't know, they may have fell in a pit of apples and it was snakes in the pit. And when they see an apple, they're just disgusted. When they see an apple, they're terrified. When they see an apple, it's the worst fucking day. And one person may have this beautiful memory of picking apples with their grandmother and sitting on her porch and her making some fresh apple pies. And so when they see an apple, it is just like the most beautiful thing ever. Two different life experiences developing two different perspectives. The first one might not even see an apple when they see an apple. They might see a knife or a snake or a spider or whatever was in the damn pit. The second person, they might not see an apple either. They might look at the apple and see their grandmother or a heart or sunshine or rays of light. Because our experiences are the shifters. Our experiences are the developers, and our environments and all of these things, they mix in. But, the great part about this is we are mutable, right? We are able to change. We're shifters. We're changers. We are many of us, we're chameleons. We're able to shift it. There's nothing about being human that says that you have to stay the exact same way you are forever. Thank God. We can change. We can choose to change. And awareness allows us to change. Now, in our everyday lives, one way that I love to, one purpose of teaching perspective shifting is to just help people with shifting those common, some uncommon core beliefs that when shifted just open up the human experience. Because it's going to be what we say it is. It's going to be what we choose it to be. And this type of work takes an autonomous approach to, saying I can be a part of directing real change within my life. So one statement that I hate is I'm broke. And that is a real perspective thing, right? You may have no money in your pocket and your perspective is I'm broke. You may have $10 in your pocket, and your perspective is I'm broke. But I'm going to walk you through this, right? So you looking at this, you may view that $10 in your pocket as, it's $10. What the fuck am I gonna do with this? And somebody around the world somewhere in an impoverished community, they may have that $10 in their pocket, and they may view it as, I'm rich. I can, oh my God, I have so much money. I can do this for my family. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. The perspective of the $10, what the $10 is, changes from person to person, depending on that person, how that person's lived their life, depending on what that person's been told, depending on what that person's relationship with money has been up until then. All of these things, right? So I hate the statement, I'm broke. In my house, around, my people, I always go like, you redirect that. You're not broke. Your check is coming. You're not broke. You have everything you need, actually. And what you asked for is on the way. You're not broke. The money is just resting right now, but she'll be up in the morning. I don't know, but you're not ever broke. That's the point. You're not ever broke. Because if you say it, shit, that means you believe it. And, that means on a level like you really believe that. And that puts a message out into the universe that you believe that you are just walking in lack. I'm a lack walker. Because, brokenness is tied to lackness. And it also sends a signal that, you're directly equating your abundance to money. And which it should be the other way around, right? Because we are the abundance and the money is chasing us. So allowing yourself to have a shift around how you think, and that right there is, you have to be able to have a shift around how you think about the money. How you think about what the money means to you. How you think about your relationship. So that was a really good talk. I feel like that was really good. I encourage you to, like, when we're doing this perspective work, just look at this thing called life, whatever it is. It's all a observation game. So observe your perspectives, right? And just kind of see where you are, where you land. Do you agree? Eclipse season is a perfect time to do that. A very, very good time to do that. I say observe, look into, and the great thing about it is that you always have the power to choose, okay? A link to the shifting self-perspective course is going to be in the description box. You can always join me on Substack to be a part of that community. Free subscribers or paid subscribers. And I will see you all next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe.